Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to our live. Today, we're going to be talking about Lyme's disease and alternative remedies, essential oils and herbal preparations for that. We were supposed to do this live 2 weeks ago, and she got the flu. It happened.
Not to me, it doesn't.
Anyway, I didn't want to do it by myself, so I did go ahead and publish the blog, and some of you may have read that. If you have, go ahead and let us know that you've read it. One thing that has changed is since we had 2 more weeks before we had to do this, we found a little more information.
I spent some downtime doing some further research and driving him crazy by adding to an already published blog.
Yep. Yeah. So what we have added has been put in a dark burgundy color. It almost looks black, but if you're looking for it, you will realize that the text is a different color, and that is because it has been added to this blog.
It's all pretty much in the same.
We don't typically publish our blogs until after we've done the live on them. This prevents people from reading along with us, and it makes me less nervous.
No, we're cheating, reading our own notes.
Yeah. So, but a lot of the reason that we do this is a lot of people don't have time to read the blogs. We put it all out there. It's in a readable format. It's in a printable format. But we do them in the live so that people that are busy can just put us on in the background and listen to us while they're washing dishes.
And as a teacher, I do this in my classes too. I give them a printed copy of everything I intend to say so that 5 years later they can go back and look it up when the information is relevant to them.
Without having to watch the entire blog, you can skim down and find the information. So that blog is available at butterflyexpressions.org, and because it's the most recently published one, it's at the top. So it should be easy to find.
It is the version to which I played after they published it.
Now, these things are recorded, and we keep them on YouTube and on Facebook forever. So if you're watching this down the road a while, you might need to use a search button to search for Lyme disease, and we may update it and add to it. We try to keep it so we have it available as a reference. So we'll go with what we know today about Lyme's disease, and we will get started. If you do have questions, or if you want to give us some input, we love comments. We like even just hear from you to know you're here so we can say hi back. Please comment, let us know you're here. If you know anybody who might be interested in preventing Lyme disease, or might find some of the information in this blog useful, please tag them, please share this with them. We like to have that shared out there. All right, so in our opening statement, we said essential oils are amazing when it comes to Lyme disease because there are essential oils to help prevent it as well as to treat the symptoms of the disease. And
that's the last good news we're going to give you about Lyme's disease.
About Lyme disease. Yep.
This is a nasty.
We did have some people that were sharing this out with people, and these are big claims, but let's see what they have to say.
I believe them.
And that's true. But we're absolutely serious. Essential oils can help prevent you from getting it, and they can help you with the symptoms if you already have it. So
But we're going to talk about other things besides essential oils, because I never stick to one modality.
We don't even know how to do that. So Lyme disease is becoming extremely prevalent. Last year, well, each year there's about 30,000 cases that are reported to the CDC.
And it does not reflect all the cases, because as you will see as we discuss the symptoms and how they come about and what it looks like in the early stages, it is too often not diagnosed until later stages. People walk around with Lyme's disease for 5-6 years before they know what they're fighting and how to fight back.
Yep. And that
even doctors, medical people will get Lyme's and not recognize it for what it is.
Yep. That 30,000 cases is dramatically higher than the CDC has reported in the past.
Yeah.
So that's very scary how fast it's spreading and how prevalent it's becoming. Okay, but more troubling than the number of cases is that the disease is spreading. It used to be that you would find it confined to the mid-Atlantics and northeastern Virginia, Maine.
Occasional cases out here in the West, but no.
Central states, mostly Wisconsin, Minnesota, but now we're starting to see it. I mean, we're in Idaho and we see it.
Yeah, we've seen people here with diagnosed cases of Lyme's disease going back 10 years when they were finally diagnosed.
And it could be that they're traveling back east and contracting it and then coming home, but I don't think so. There's too many of them.
Too many cases in our area for that to be true.
So Lyme disease is actually caused by a bacteria, and this bacteria is really awesomely fun to try to pronounce.
Borrelia burgdorferi.
I told you.
Or burgdorferi. And the thing about these silly Latin names is that you can go to a class of professionals and no 2 of them will pronounce it alike. Yep. And I was watching one guy, and I loved his claim. He said even though he has 2 PhDs, when he's in the field, and he wants to know how to pronounce a name, he very carefully doesn't until the senior member of the team has pronounced it first. Then he does it that way.
So we're not going to
pretend to know how to do that
this whole time. We're going to call it Borrelia. Isn't that
Borrelia?
Borrelia.
Whatever comes out of our mouth, you'll know we're talking about the Lyme bacteria.
Lyme disease. Okay, and this bacteria is unique because it has kind of a corkscrew shape, and that allows it to burrow very deeply into the tissues of the body. And once it has done that, it hides itself.
Well, more and scarier than that is it leaves the bloodstream very quickly
Yep.
and burrows into tissues, into nerve tissue, into the joints, and it burrows everywhere. And a blood test will not identify it because it's not in the bloodstream
anymore
in high enough numbers to count.
Yep.
And that's a scary thing.
Yep.
And then there's the fact that a staph or a strep bacteria has to have massive numbers before it causes serious illness. So, and there it is in the blood to be found. But this Borrelia thing, only small numbers will create, and they're not in the bloodstream to be found. Diagnosis is extremely tricky.
By the time the numbers are high enough that they can find it on a blood test, you're very sick.
And the other scary part about this little monster is that it's capable of infecting white blood cells. It can affect the immune system itself, which makes your fight back, no matter what you're using to fight with,
Yep.
a little bit compromised to start with.
So some of the chronic disorders that it causes include arthritis, neurological issues.
As we talk about symptoms, you'll see there's not much of anything that wasn't initially diagnosed as you have this or you have that or you have something else, only to finally realize when enough of the pieces of the puzzle come together that you're looking at Lyme's disease.
Yep.
So.
All right, so carriers of Lyme disease, and this is a rather interesting topic. Most people associate Lyme disease with ticks, and that's good. That's hence our lovely picture when we first got started of a tick, and he's an ugly little bugger too. So, but ticks have to be getting it from somewhere, and there has been a lot of debate and speculation on where that is that they get it from. Deer have long been blamed for that, but recent studies are showing that to not be quite as true as we thought. A tick that is feeding on a deer has about a 1% chance of becoming infected with Lyme.
But a tick feeding on the rodent population in the same area has
a much higher 75 to 95% chance of becoming infected.
So here again, your rodents are your carrier of this kind of disease.
Yep. So. Okay, there are
a new little thing I learned on a doctor's website that had finally diagnosed himself and given up treating it medically and went after it herbally, said that he believed that some of the ticks that carry Lyme disease do not burrow and, put their head clear in and climb in after it. They don't burrow in, but they literally bite and then withdraw and fall off the host, which means a lot of Lyme disease people do not even know they've been bitten, or they have not found a tick, they've not removed a tick. And the doctor they visit has no reason to look at tick-borne illnesses because of this. And I hope he's wrong. Okay. I came across that just recently. But anyway, I hope he's wrong.
Yeah, ticks, I mean, that's
at least you should know you've had a tick.
That's right. If you dig it out of your skin, then you should think, there's a chance I could be infected.
And then you can start fighting back, right?
But if it bites and falls off and all you ever thought of was a spider bite or maybe a mosquito or
even not that much, people get rashes for all sorts of reasons besides Lyme disease.
Yeah, we are going to get to things to do that will help with the symptoms of Lyme disease, but an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And if you live in a wooded area or you visit a wooded area, it is very important to take precautions to
kids play in those little areas.
Yep. Yeah. And to check your kids over for ticks when they're done playing. Ticks cannot fly. They don't jump. They don't even crawl up vegetation laying in wait for something to come by. They crawl up vegetation. Sorry.
That's where they sit, is on vegetation.
And they wait, but they're not jumping from that vegetation to you. So if
you have to brush against it.
Yep. If you're playing out in that type of area, you need to check yourself and your kids over for little bites.
And as soon as they get on your clothing, they're going to crawl underneath it and find an out-of-the-way place to burrow in. That's what they do.
I think I've seen them on the back of the neck, just in the hairline, quite a bit.
along
Yeah,
anywhere
under
on
the
the
clothes,
inside,
for sure.
underneath the clothing. They
Underneath the clothing.
burrow in. And it's odd. It was always odd to me as my kids would come home with ticks that they wouldn't report. I mean, you think of something, I don't think I've ever had one myself personally, but
Yeah.
I don't, how does something stick its little head in you and burrow in and you not notice, you know? I mean, I think it would hurt, but apparently
I
not.
don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Apparently not. So,
Proper clothing is a huge thing to defense against. If you're hiking in shorts and spaghetti straps, and this is a bad idea.
long pants
sleeves,
that you can tuck into your socks, you know.
Yep. And it may
Shirts-
not be a
shirts
fashion
with a cuff,
statement,
you know.
but it will keep them from coming up underneath your pant legs if you pull keep your boots up over your pant legs or keep your socks up over your pant
and a
legs.
shirt that's a little tighter around the neck, you know. There's a couple of things you can
And a
do.
lot of us will think about checking for ticks when we get back from camping or we get back from hiking, but what a lot of us don't realize is that ticks can live in our backyards. They can be part of our children's play equipment, and checking them when they come in, checking in regularly at bath times, and just being vigilant and being aware of it is huge. You can actually landscape to avoid ticks. Ticks like wet. They like low brush, and they like piles of sticks or piles of debris or a
Wood
recipe
chips.
for
I saw that.
disaster.
Wood chips. They claim that wood chips in your play yard, the wood chips are dry, and ticks do not like dry wood. It dries their little bodies out themselves, and so that
Avoid it.
that might be something. Except I can't imagine if your wood chips are where they're getting watered around the edges when you
From
water
your
your
grass,
lawn, and
then
then
you're-
you've got damp wood chips, which are
the exact
absolute
opposite.
place where they would love to be. So damp,
Yep.
humid spaces.
Ticks do not like hot and dry environments. They strive for those humid spaces. So let's get into essential oils. I'm going to show you a picture too while we're talking about this, because Butterfly has 2 essential oil blends that are effective as bug repellents and tick repellents. And those are Away and Be Gone. And we'll talk about the difference between each one of them here, but let me see if I can figure out how to get this picture to come up. I can get
The best way to apply either one of them is to
I'm gonna
dilute
show
them,
them
in
out,
my
right.
opinion, in Miracle 2 neutralizer in
There
a
we
spray
go.
bottle. Yeah. And Miracle 2 neutralizer rather than straight water in your spray bottle is a good carrier for that.
This shows you on the, well, it's my left, so it might be your right. Ha ha. It shows you Away, and the other side is Be Gone. And the ingredients are completely different in these two. And then the spray bottle pictured in the
cedarwood is
middle.
kind of a common, but other than that,
The bottle there pictured in the middle, you can get that type of a spray bottle just about anywhere. But the reason I pictured that one is because it's glass. And when you are
Glass
working
and
with
dark.
essential oils, glass is a must. You're going to fill that up with water. And
or Miracle 2 neutralizer.
yeah, let's put it right
Follow
down there.
my direction.
You're going to fill that up with water, and then you're going to add some essential oil to it. And the amount is really not a ton, hugely important. 10, 15 drops, but if you do 50, that's not going to be a problem either.
As long as you shake it well before you start
I would say
spraying
30, 40 is probably about ample, but you could add the whole bottle. It's not going to hurt anything. And then I spray it on clothes before they go outside. Just about
it.
everything.
Bottoms of the pant legs, your sleeves, around the neck of your shirt, your hat. You don't want to, especially if you're getting crazy with how much you put, get it on your eyes or, places like that. Don't be doing that.
I have been known when we're camping, and it is a particularly wet year, to spray a perimeter around the camp. But my kids aren't going to stay in that perimeter, so a
lot of good that did.
Yeah. But it's still, I feel like it helps them from coming into where we are at night.
They're not already there already when you got there.
Well, yeah, but I've been known to spray the area pretty good with my spray bottle. Okay, so Away, the ingredients in Away are catnip, cedarwood, cinnamon berry, citronella, clove, and eucalyptus peppermint. And this is the only bug repellent the Butterfly had for a lot of years, and it works great. But a lot of people use it just because it's what they know, and they've got experience, they know it's going to work. But a few years ago, they came out with another one that contains Be Gone. Or it's called Be Gone.
Be Gone.
Wow. And it contains cedarwood, lavender, lemongrass, and rose geranium, and it smells a lot better.
It smells way better, and I think it's just as effective.
There's no comparison in the way that they smell. But a lot of people
the smell
are
of Away would scare the ticks away.
Tried and true. Yeah, it's a preference thing. I like Be Gone.
I didn't blend it for aroma.
I like Be Gone, and it works for me. So, but that's a personal preference, and they haven't got rid of the Away. They will probably keep both forever. So there you go. Let's see. We're gonna get rid of our cute little picture. You've seen it.
Of course, the risk of infection is worse the longer the tick remains on the body. So
Remove immediately.
Vigilance is the key. Teach your kids to take a bath in the evening if they've been out playing in the dirt and the forest and the campgrounds, and to check, to look for ticks. Make
Daily.
a point of looking for ticks. Because where we grew up, and even just around the yard, even between our house and grandma's, were places where ticks could hang. And
well, where I'm moving to this summer is
you're going to
breeding
be
ground for ticks.
Yeah, it hasn't been inhabited for a while,
For 20
even though
years,
it's flat
and
and
it's
beautiful
gonna
country.
It's gorgeous, but we're going to have to be extremely
You're
vigilant.
going to have to watch out for ticks.
So there's a lot of effective methods for removing ticks. Most families have their own tried and true methods, and you probably are like, oh, this is how we do it. That's fine. Go ahead, comment and tell us about it. But it's very important that you keep the tick, you save it, so that if symptoms do develop over the next few days or weeks, that you can have it tested.
Now, some of the common ways, and I've used them on my kids, painting the tick with nail polish, sticking petroleum jelly or oil, motor oil on it, But they claim, the medical people claim, that this causes the tick to spit out small amounts of their saliva, and that actually increases your odds of infection. So, I don't know.
I think a small pair of tweezers, but
they have such little barbed appendages that unless you're very, very careful and patient with drawing the thing,
you want to encourage
you might
them
leave
to
pieces
come out.
of the head embedded, and that's not going to be good.
And that's
either.
not a good idea either. So this is what we recommend, is that you are extremely patient with whatever method you choose to remove it, and don't get in a big hurry.
Try being patient on a 2-year-old.
Yes, this is true.
You can see Tasha.
Once you get it out, you're going to want to apply an essential oil, because all essential oils are antimicrobial, antibacterial, antifungal. You need to pick one and apply it. Some of our favorites would be tea tree or Melaplus, or of course Deliverance.
So meanwhile, just take a curved pair of tweezers and get as close, flip the tick over so it's on its back, and then very, very carefully pull gently. Don't twist it, don't turn it. They have little barbs on their heads. If you twist and turn them, you'll break those little barbs off and they'll remain behind. So just very carefully remove it. Watch very closely. Get a pair of good eyeglasses, a magnifying glass. You should have a small crater in the skin where the head was removed. If you don't have that crater, you didn't get that
You
head.
missed the head, and that's very important.
So, and you don't, like she said, apply the essential oils, so that if you did leave a little bit of the barbed part, if there's some of the saliva, the blood meal that the tick ingested is left behind, you've hit that bacteria right away, right there. Before it has a chance to burrow, before it has a chance to travel, it's right there, localized and stomped on.
And you're going to apply that essential oil
absolutely neat,
which just basically means straight. If it's on a part of the body that is more sensitive, essential oils are going to irritate it.
Well, some things are better than other things.
Yeah, it's it's still a good idea.
A little irritation from an essential oil is a minor detail.
Better than getting Lyme's. Okay, let's talk about the symptoms of Lyme so that you could recognize it. Typically, Lyme starts with a rash, and that looks like a solid red oval or like a bullseye
in the
center with a red spot.
It's a flat rash. It's not a bumpy, crazy rash. It's a flat rash.
And typically, that rash doesn't even itch.
Yeah, which is scary. Okay.
That rash then expands.
And then it just disappears. And that does not mean that the problem is gone.
It means it has moved into the nerves.
Even if you don't treat the rash, it will dissipate. So easy to say, well, I don't know what that was, but it's gone.
But it's gone, so it doesn't matter.
No.
Yeah, no. Okay, these rashes appear 3 to 5 weeks after your encounter with the tick.
And you make it a series of rashes as that thing spreads throughout the system. You make it another little rash behind the knee, another little rash up by the shoulder, another little rash up by the neck.
Yep.
That's kind of one of the symptoms to watch out for. When people call me and say, my son has this rash, my first question is, are they prone to these? Has there been a series of those recently?
Yep.
Because, you're looking at allergies, you're looking at not just Lyme, but I hate rashes. I absolutely detest rashes. Okay.
But because of that 3 to 5 week incubation period, a lot of people don't even remember having the rash. It's not part of the picture.
If it takes 2 years to diagnose Lyme, then they're not going to remember the rash, let alone remember the tick that they didn't find. There's just...
And that rash could be as small as a poppy seed. It can be as big as...
A little tiny, may only be a rash right around the tick site. So.
And that rash can take up to 30 days to appear. The rest of the symptoms are going to be 3 to 5 weeks. So
or longer before you come together. So
okay, flu-like
initial
symptoms.
symptom is the flu-like
You
symptoms.
look like you've gotten the flu.
Oh, I had the flu last
So
week,
fevers,
but I wasn't hiking anyway.
headaches, muscle. Well, it's winter too, so it's not likely that it's Lyme.
Not likely I got Lyme
Disease. There's no S, by the way.
Oh,
I had
it's
to
just
check that
Lyme
out. It
disease.
is
Yes,
just
I
Lyme.
noticed that yesterday. I was
Anyway,
typing it wrong.
The symptoms of it often wax and wane. They come,
and
they go. You feel better, then you get sick again.
One medical doctor, the same one that we'll quote later on, said that his symptoms literally came and went with the moon cycles. He found that the strangest thing.
Well, that's interesting.
And he says he couldn't for the life of him, having studied bacteria and corkscrew bacteria and everything else for a lifetime, make any sense of that. But he did note that in his personal journals, that it came and went with the season, with the moon, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Extreme fatigue is a very common symptom of Lyme disease. It can be described as total exhaustion.
As every body system, every joint,
your
every
sleep
nerve is
requirements
attacked by this thing.
Will dramatically increase. A daytime nap feels like an absolute necessity. And as the disease progresses, it can be very debilitating. So joints and pain and stiffness in your joints,
the fatigue is one of the major things that disrupts lives with this. I had a friend who, bubbly personality, when I first met her, she was just lethargic. But I have watched her and her children emerge from Lyme disease, and on that sunny personality people told me about, return and that energy level. So you can win with this thing. So joint pain and stiffness.
A lot of times is mistaken for arthritis, and later, as they realize the other symptoms, they put it together and realize that it's actually Lyme's disease.
And the key to arthritis, to Lyme, opposed to arthritis, is the fact that it seems to move from joint to joint to joint.
Arthritis will settle.
The Borrelia will attack in one joint, and then it gets tired of being there, and it moves to somewhere else. And arthritis doesn't tend to do that. As the cartilage breaks down, an arthritic joint stays arthritic, whereas the Lyme arthritis tends to be a little bit moving about. So.
The next thing the Lyme can do is it can become a sleep disturbance, and it does this in some interesting ways. It does it in fluctuations of body temperature, so you're hot and throwing your blankets off, and then you're cold and trying to find more blankets. Night sweats or chills. You'll wake up with sweating or cold. Those are part of the Lyme disease picture. A decline in mental acuity.
This is the one that I've had people tell me is the most frightening.
Yep.
The difficulty concentrating, the lapses in memory, like remembering names they've known forever.
A person, they can forget people.
Why they went. I mean, we all do this. We call it hereafter. What am I hereafter? When you go someplace to get something and can't remember why you're there. But
familiar things, places they've driven hundreds and hundreds of times on, and all of a sudden they can't remember how to get there.
I mean, there's so many other reasons for this too, but it is.
That could just be stress.
It's a part of Lyme disease. If you have the other symptoms and this is becoming pronounced, it's just another tick off on the list.
Check. Okay, another one. Additional neurological issues is the cranial nerves. They tend to attack those cranial nerves and the facial nerves, so you get numbness and tingling.
So the cranial nerve feeds the face, and
there's my face itch just talking about it.
The thing about Lyme's disease, it's often Lyme disease. Sorry, it's often mistaken for Bell's palsy, except that Lyme disease will attack both sides of the face.
And Bell's palsy usually picks one,
and it'll pick one side first and then travel to the other. And Bell's palsy does not do that. And so that's another one of those check off on the tick off list of, hey, I wonder if this could be Lyme.
Yep. Lyme disease can also spread to the brain and the spinal cord, and then it can be mistaken for meningitis.
Mm-hmm.
Or meningitis
if it's in the neck and the other cranial nerves of the neck, cause to balance issues. It can cause a palsy, or your hands tremble when you pick up a cup. I mean, this thing burrows everywhere. And like I said, it's not detected in the blood once it started burrowing. So unless you picked up on it and had a blood test quick before you had very many symptoms, this thing's going to burrow everywhere, and the blood tests are going to come back negative.
Yep. One other thing is that it can cause vision changes, and this is a symptom that not everybody with Lyme disease actually experiences, vision disturbances, but it can cause a sensitivity to light, both indoors and outdoors. It can cause blurry vision. Those are another part of it. It can also cause some interesting and scary heart problems.
Fortunately, this is quite rare, but this thing can burrow everywhere.
And so it can affect the heart muscle, and it can disrupt
the
electrical signals.
Chest pains, lightheadedness, shortness of breath, heart palpitations.
Irregular heartbeat.
Sounds like a Sounds like a heart disease when it's not.
Lyme disease should be taken very seriously, and it should be treated very vigorously. It's very difficult to diagnose and treat, and so it's often not
We'll
undertaken
talk about what we
soon
mean
enough.
by vigorously. It's not what you think of with strep and staph and pneumonia and those kinds of things. This is a corkscrew. It's a whole different thing.
Yep.
Whole different.
It can also cause some mood changes.
Imagine that.
Gee, because
They're
I think
playing around and digging into your nerves, and you get
and
irritable
you're
and
feeling
anxious,
tired
right?
because you're not getting enough sleep because they're waking you up. Yeah, shocker that one.
Yeah.
Okay, regression in children. Young children between the age of 5 and 14 account for about 25% of the cases reported to the CDC in the United States.
And they'll have all the same symptoms as adults, except that their social, speech, and motor coordination skills will be affected.
Regress.
You'll think, okay, my child had mastered those little fine motor skills, they could ride a bike, and now their balance is,
No, they can't.
And,
They also
and
lose
how
their
will you know
appetite.
that with a child? They're more accident prone. They tip into things. They tip over. So here again, it's easy to miss. Your child is out in the summer. It's summer now. He's more active. Of course, he's being banged up a little more often.
And children are more likely than adults to experience severe joint stiffness, even in the very beginnings of the disease. So that's
Burrows into
definitely
their
a way to
little
watch.
joints.
Okay, so let's talk about medical solutions here for a minute and antibiotics.
And this is a hard one because I try not to bash medicine.
Well, we've got some interesting
And I'm not, because I'm
information
getting
here.
this information from a doctor rather than,
Yeah.
So antibiotics used against Lyme disease, they are. That
20% effective.
But even after a round of antibiotics, only 20% of people, about 20% of people experience symptoms long after they've done antibiotic treatments. So Lyme disease often results in antibiotic use over months or years. And medical professionals are coming to realize that because, and let me explain it, okay? Here you got a little corkscrew, all right? And he has about 120 some odd proteins on his little outsides, whereas a staph or strep one only has between 2 to 4 proteins. When you apply an antibiotic to that little corkscrew protein, all that 120 of them, some of them
die.
Well, some of them die. Some of them are intelligent enough to redesign themselves. In other words, mutate. So the next time that corkscrew invades a new area of the body, it's not the same as it was when it invaded first. And you apply an antibiotic. And so you change antibiotics, you apply another one, and a certain percentage of those mutate. So then down the road, you apply a different antibiotic and a certain number of them mutate. But it's really the only way you'll ever get them all using an antibiotic is to over and over and over again change your antibiotic every 5 or 6 or 10 weeks and use a whole new one. But the fact is, every antibiotic affects the gut.
There's a doctor named Dr. Bill Rawls who actually got Lyme disease, and he eventually recovered from it. He had a chronic bout of it, and he talks about how the antibiotics became.
And I quoted him directly.
Resistant.
This is the part I added to the thing because
this is the part that's now burgundy in the thing.
Fascinating information from this doctor, who now fights this with new patients, all the time. So.
And he helps people through it because he knows what it's like. He's been there himself. But he talks about how it leaves the blood very quickly, making it hard to diagnose.
He talks about how with an antibiotic, this little corkscrew rolls itself into a little ball and covers itself with a little cyst-like coating, he had a name for it, which I can't remember, that is impenetrable to the next antibiotic round. And that these little creatures can roll into a little ball and survive an antibiotic onslaught, then move about a little, and then roll back into a ball for the next antibiotic onslaught. He says they're extremely difficult to eradicate.
Well, another thing an interesting point that he made is it is capable of hiding itself among the trillions of good bacteria that our body actually needs that makes up our microbiome, and they hide among that, and they're very good at it.
And
so in order to kill it with an antibiotic, we're killing the good and the bad, and that's setting us up for a bunch of other problems with our digestive system and
this poor Dr. Rawls
taking down our immune
all
system.
These roads. He's talking personal experience here.
Yep.
So.
He said the continued use of antibiotics, which is required to eradicate Borrelia disrupts the microbiome of the intestinal tract and weakens the immune system. He knows this.
And he, on his own, he
And that-
explains this in detail.
He also says that the disruption allows for a host of secondary infections.
Every Lyme
Ouch.
patient, he claims, has secondary infections going on,
70%.
even though they're on a regimen of antibiotics.
Yep.
70% of the immune system arrives in the gut. I teach this in Chrysalis. I teach it in the Foot Zone. And when you start messing with the gut bacteria, you have upset your immune system.
Yourself up for everything.
And since a lot of the little endorphins, like serotonin and stuff, are also created in the gut and move to the brain, you're setting yourself up for anxiety and depression and panic attacks and several other fun things.
But he does say that, this is a direct quote, he says, I do not believe that alternative or natural treatments.
No, that's my
you?
quote. That's me, not him.
I thought it was him. I didn't. Well, I'll let you read it then. Since
Okay, I'll just say it. I've never felt like alternative medicines
do that.
Cause things to mutate. I've never understood why. It's just an experience sort of thing, that you don't get a mutation to a new thing in a second and third and fourth round of something similar to what you already treated with an antibiotic. And so his explanation of why just fascinated me. And that was just the funnest thing I've come across in a long time.
So there's a fascinating study for you if you want it. He does mention a book by Stephen.
And I will be ordering it.
I'll spell it to you. It's Buchner, Stephen, which is PH, Stephen, Buchner. And that book is entitled Healing Lyme. And he says that this book was the turning point for him recovering from Lyme disease. And it helped him to compile information and things that he could use to beat Lyme.
What I like that he says it provides compelling evidence for treating Lyme disease using herbs with antimicrobial properties. And he said it's based upon sound scientific evidence. And I mean, I can hardly wait to get my hands on this book.
Yeah, we're excited for this book. Unfortunately, our live
that's going to be my new reading.
One of the things that he said is that herbs provide a wide spectrum of antimicrobial properties.
I love the way he explained it. He said, and I'm quoting him directly, so quotes around this in the blog. Plants have to deal with a wide range of microbes, including bacteria, viruses, protozoa, and fungi, just like any other living creature. Not having an immune system, plants deal with the problem by producing a sophisticated spectrum of biochemical substances. Instead of one chemical like an antibiotic is, a medicinal herb contains hundreds of chemicals that suppress microbes in different ways, therefore becoming resistant. In other words, the microbe mutating and the treatment no longer being effective is almost unheard of, even with long-term use. He's validated what 40 years of experience have told me, that I can use an herb against something and it's not going to mutate and come around and smack me back again in 3 weeks.
Another thing that he says is using multiple herbs together is synergistic. You can use lots and lots of them because
we know that about essential oils.
We do, but with herbs, you can't take too many. You can overdo them if they're highly cleansing herbs, but mostly herbs are nutrition. They feed the body and they give it what it needs to fight things.
And you can mix an herbal blend so that you've got the antimicrobials with the ones that rebuild the tissue, with the ones that quiet the nerves, with the ones that fix the upset stomach, with the ones that fix, and you can put them all together in one little pot and have a good time.
I can't. This is still in quotes. Yes, it is. He says you can think of it as an orchestra of healing. The sum of multiple herbs is more powerful than each herb individually. He's got a way with words.
He does have a way with words. That's why I rarely directly quote somebody, but I had a good time with him.
He's brilliant. So we recommend this book, even though we haven't read it yet, but we're excited to. Anyway, herbal remedies are inherently safe is another thing that he says.
Yeah, and he says, quote, over the millennia, humans naturally selected certain plant substances for use as medicines. These plants, now known as medicinal herbs, have a chemistry that meshes well with human biochemistry. Not surprisingly, medicinal herbs are well tolerated by most people and can be safely used for extended periods of time. I swear I'm going to post that on a banner and ride through the countryside with it, Yes, safely used.
He says that herbs enhance immune functions.
All drugs have side effects.
We could go into that, but it's in the blog.
He talks about cytokines and the way that shifts the immune system away from inflammation and toward healing. And, it's pretty amazing.
Herbs support a balanced microbiome, and that's
Instead of
huge.
destroying your gut, they actually support the things that you need in your gut. And that's amazing too.
That's
So,
huge when you're trying to fight Lyme. Herbs provide a wide spectrum of other benefits, and
he
those
had 12, I think 10 or 12 points. I only picked up 6. So
Yeah.
you know.
those include cardiovascular, liver, nerve functions. Herbs balance hormone systems, especially adrenal hormones, and they protect the cellular function. This guy's, he's awesome.
And I love this. Herbs are anti-fatigue and improve stress tolerance. And then he said, and I put this in bold,
This is awesome.
no drug on earth can provide the range of benefits present in medicinal herbs. This is a medical doctor, a practicing medical doctor who suffered from Lyme disease for several years.
Thank you, Cynthia, for your comment. I love it. She says that she loves our essential oils.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay,
We love them.
so herbal suggestions for fighting Lyme. We finally got to the fun part.
Garlic.
Garlic.
Nature's #1 antibiotic. If I have
Absolutely.
anything nasty, I'm going to throw garlic at it.
Right
That's
off the
the way
bat.
that is. Yes.
On a regular basis, just for fun, because it tastes good.
I like it.
So there you go. There is nothing stronger than garlic for killing microbes.
Which makes the APL formula
#1 we're
with
gonna talk
garlic.
about.
And APL has all the herbs that we use in the BHM, the best salve for rebuilding the body. And the only thing different is that it also has garlic, and a couple of the proportions and the other things are tweaked a little bit.
It has a lot of
So
antimicrobial
you've got all
herbs.
those antimicrobial herbs. You've got some healing herbs as well, and you've got garlic in
And you
there.
got a lot of nutrients
you've
that you're
got some-
giving to your body.
Some vinegar, which also does great things in the body. So
The next one is BAC, and this is a specific for fighting bacterials. It's one of the strongest antibacterial formulas that there is.
it's a great one.
If I were fighting Lyme, I wouldn't pick 1 or 2 of these.
I wouldn't, no. And
No.
I would be heavy on one with the other supporting, and then in a couple of 3 weeks, I'd go heavy on a different one with the other supporting, and I'd hit this with everything I've got. I would be to the point of nausea and diarrhea every minute.
Karen Clark Lewis has great
That's
info here.
Karen,
Marie.
yes. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Karen. I used to send people to you for Lyme.
Her quote says, "These are the ideas that my doctor used, and I am now Lyme free, and I expect to stay that
And
way."
thank you for that post about your doctor. I listened to every word she said and went and found her other posts too this last week.
Love it.
She posted online, my friend Karen. Yeah.
Okay. Another one is the MULC or MOLC formula. This one contains mullein and marshmallow in high concentrations, lots and lots. It's very soothing. These are emollient herbs.
That what they mean by emollient is where the tissues are being dried out by all these antimicrobial and antibacterial herbs. These help heal those tissues.
But where the thing is corkscrewed in and left damaged,
it will help heal that damage. Yeah.
So that's a huge one. And yeah, it's not going to, you want to take just this one and not take the ones that are going to kill the disease, because
there's some killers in malt. But
there is, but yeah, that's why I said
hit it with BAC, hit it with RC, hit it with APL if you're brave enough.
RC, that's the next one we're going to talk about. RC is known as a blood cleanser. And that's where Lyme starts. It doesn't stay there very long, but it started there, and so it's a good idea to clean up the blood.
Clean up
and
whatever's
get that
left there of it. So
she says she loves us too. Says, awesome, love you guys. Anyway, cool. All right, couple more. Yarrow usnea, and this form is particularly effective against staph and strep infections. So it would definitely be added to any regimen I was doing for Lyme disease.
Because it's such a strong antibacterial. But I love usnea.
Usnea is an amazing little herb. It's cool. It's a little moss that grows on trees.
The deer love it.
Yeah, maybe that's what.
So anytime a pine tree dies, then it falls on the ground. The deer will eat all of the usnea off it.
Yep. If you have a natural Christmas tree, which we do, a natural tree. We actually found one this year that had some usnea growing on it, and it's the first thing my goats went after when they got my tree.
You bet, absolutely. It wouldn't have been left there if I'd have been there first. So
well, yeah, it looks so cool though. I couldn't. Anyway, all right.
So nervine herbs.
There are
Butterfly
4.
has nerve NS, NB, NT, NBC. They stand.
They're all slightly different. Nerve special, which would be the NS.
If you're ever going to react to a nerve, it will be to a nervine. So we made 4 formulas, so you don't have to have one you don't want.
If you've had a reaction to herbs in the past, NBC is the place to start because it's specifically formulated for children.
Formulated for children. NS is the second mildest one. So NT.
And then
the
NB
is the big guns.
if you can handle them. Okay. There's also a formula called AP, which is to bring relief
arthritis
from inflammation.
Joint inflammation.
So they're your you're helping with the symptoms and
And
giving the body what it needs to heal from what's causing the inflammation.
an IB as an immune builder. So
Yep.
start to get that immune back online I'm drinking that stuff at the moment because I've been sick twice in the last little bit, and that's twice more than I've been sick in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that anymore. So I'm drinking that one at the moment.
Essential
And
oil.
it's a glyceride, so I'm allowed to drink it. Okay.
You're allowed to drink it. Oh, I see. A little slow, but I come to it.
Yeah, sorry.
So we're going to talk about essential oils, and this is one area we had a hard time not just giving you a whole book, because all essential oils have properties that are going to help be antimicrobial and antibacterial and all of that. And so we had a really hard time here.
So this guy, this Dr. Ying Zhang, whatever his name is, found some highly active essential oils, as he termed them, against the dormant phase of this Borrelia thing. When it's curled up into a little ball and hiding from the antibiotic,
the essential
he
oils
found essential oils so effective that he studied 35 additional essential oils for their properties.
and found 10 of those that were highly effective against it. And so there is quite a list. We had a really hard
I
time.
picked 9 of the most commonly used essential oils, at least around here. Now, I listed garlic first, even though that's not a commonly used essential oil.
That's a strong little bugger.
And I tell you, be careful with that one. Around here, if you pour it, you put on a set of gloves, and you get a companion who also has a set of gloves. And one person in gloves touches the bottle that they're dumping from, and the other one touches the bottle they're dumping to, trying to keep it off the bottle so it doesn't eat the label when you label it later.
It's very strong, and it needs to be
very
diluted
very
strong. Well.
And so treat it, glove yourself, treat it carefully, 1 drop in whatever you're applying it with. But I promise you, garlic kills what
it makes a good thing to add to salve or to, but it's very strong.
It is extremely
The other ones
strong.
on the list were myrrh and thyme, cinnamon bark, which is another very strong one. It's not as strong as garlic, but it's pretty strong.
Garlic.
Allspice and cumin. Any of your spice oils are going to be very strong, and you're going to need to use a carrier oil with them and only use a little tiny bit. Cumin would be another spice one. Eucalyptus.
One that surprised me was Lycia cubeba.
This is a cool little oil
because it's sometimes called Mei Chang, by the way, but it's totally different than the others. And Palmarosa too. Those are, I've always considered milder, more pleasant oils. And
they smell a lot better than any of the previous.
And to find them, in his list of the most effective against this nasty thing was quite exciting to me. Yep. So, other ones, spiked ginger lily, Butterfly doesn't
carry it, but it was on his list.
Garlic and allspice, garlic, allspice, myrrh, and this Lycia cubeba completely eradicated the Lyme disease bacteria within 7 days. Now, these are in a little petri dish. This is not, they haven't
in a body that's
on
feeding
mice
it
yet, but no regrowth occurred in those petri dishes in 21 days. I mean, that's total kill out, totally eradicated with nothing left over to regrow and start over.
Karen says she loved essential oils for Lyme's. They're wonderful. Yeah. No treatment.
This Karen we keep talking about fought this thing
She's
herself and her family, and she knows. I've been telling people to call her for years.
One quote by this Dr. Zhang, he said that we found that essential oils were even better at killing the persister forms of Lyme bacteria than the standard Lyme antibiotics.
What we mean by the persister is those little guys who roll up and hide dormant for a long time and then come back out again when a different antibiotic.
But now they're starting their testings on rodents, and we shall see how that turns out. Okay, very last thing that we always talk about as far as remedies go is homeopathics, or what is called blessed waters. And there are some of those that are very helpful for people fighting Lyme. We'll go through them rather quickly. There's information in the blog if you would like to look up more about that, but there's a few that are worth mentioning. Arsenicum album is one of those.
Polycrest remedy. Everybody should have it. And because it hits so many body systems at once, and there's so much information about it, that's the first thing I would grab. It's the first thing I grab whenever I get sick.
If there's even a possibility in the area that you live, you want to have that one on hand. You don't want to be waiting for it to come in the mail. That's
if your family gets the flu, or your family gets a head cold, or your family, this one.
Arsenicum album is
it's awesome. A true polycrest. It works for a mighty range of things on a mighty range of people. You have to understand, I am a person who is very leery of these cure-all things. Arsenicum has had my attention for 25 years now.
On so many things. Yeah. Okay. Mercurius solubilis, which is vivus.
It can
be mercurius.
They're such close cousins that they're almost the same.
You can kind of use them interchangeably. So this one is for skin and joint symptoms.
it's number one for things like
The rash.
oh, come on, shingles.
Oh, yes.
And so anything with a rash, but it's
That
the
restless
mentals of
sleeping.
it that are irresolution, precoceness, restlessness, constantly changing one's mind, forgetfulness, being apprehensive and anxious.
If these weren't part of your personality before Lyme's,
And
this can help.
they've emerging a little dose of this to eradicate those symptoms. Even if, fight the Lyme with the herbs and the oils, but fight the mental stuff with this.
Living with the mental parts can be really hard. Thuja occidentals is another essential or another homeopathic worth looking into if you're fighting Lyme or contemplating fighting Lyme.
One here, speech is slow or they hunt for words, and that's a new symptom coming on. I hate to see that, especially in older people, because it's an indication to me that we've got an oncoming stroke, possibly. We've got some things going on. But it is also a symptom of Lyme disease as this thing burrows into the nerves and into
the next thing you're going to get is a despair of recovery.
And
I'm not going to beat this.
That is Lyme, because
and Thuja can help turn that around and make it
confusion, especially in the morning. You should wake up and you think, I've had a good night's sleep. What's the matter with my brain?
Thuja. Okay. Persistent joint pain. If Lyme's is not diagnosed and treated promptly, there's a very high likelihood that there will be residual joint pain.
And it's what you see in children.
Yep.
5 to 15 years old is the sudden onset of joint pain, whereas in adult people, it takes longer. So joint pain.
Statistically, about 60% of people who've suffered from Lyme disease will also suffer from what they call Lyme's arthritis. And that's inflamed and painful joints. This can persist for months or even years. And so there's some essential oils that are specific for that joint pain, and that is intensity, although I wouldn't use that on a child under the age of about 10. And the other one is deeper, and deeper is awesome.
I didn't think I would ever find an oil for pain that I loved better than deeper. We tweaked that during your accident. We tweaked it during the head injuries.
Deeper is awesome.
But I'll tell you, when they come up with intensity, and I can't even take credit for this one because I didn't blend it. This intensity is amazing.
But it is
not
a child-friendly blend.
It's not a child-friendly
Butterfly doesn't have very many of those. They just don't. They blend for children and families.
That's what
they
children
do.
And grandchildren.
But intensity is not one of those.
Intensity is not. No.
But deeper is awesome. It does need to be used with a carrier oil. It's not one of those that you use straight. A carrier oil is awesome with.
Well, anything you want to penetrate deeply into a joint, you're better off with a carrier oil.
You are.
Okay, so I think we're about done.
There's a little bit of fascinating research at the very end of the blog, and I don't know if you wanted to go into that or not.
Well, we kind of mentioned that protective coating around the bacteria, and this Alan Steer's research confirmed that. So we
already kind of covered that.
Excessive immune response. That's what the excessive deregulated host immune response. In other words, your body recognizes it as a serious threat, and for a moment goes a little bit
crazy
nuts.
Trying to protect.
What they're saying is that I'm going to sum it up.
Okay.
What they're saying is that this crazy little bacteria, when it rolls itself in and out of its little corkscrew shape, will put little fragments of its covering, its protective coating that it did while it was rolled up in a little ball, and those will go into the bloodstream, and they will go everywhere, into the synovial fluids of the joints. They'll go everywhere. And as the kidneys, inflammation, extra water in the tissues, as the kidneys try to clear those out from this immune response, that a lot of the worst symptoms of Lyme are because of this. And of course, as the little guys die, then they fragment, and more of these little things they call PG fragments, for some big word I can't pronounce. But so often the kill off of the Lyme is almost its own disease, its own set of symptoms as your kidneys struggle, and as all these things.
That makes it important to support the kidneys with things like KT
and different things. It's like
cranberry capsules.
It's like the recovery period is almost as nasty as the disease. So don't get Lyme.
Okay.
Take it from Carolyn and don't get it.
Don't do this.
Don't get it in the first place. So.
Okay, well, this is what we have put together for you, and we hope that it helps and benefits some people. We hope that people will watch it and use it as a preventative. That's why we started with preventatives. You're welcome to access the blog on the blog site butterflyexpressions.net. Think about that one for a minute.
I could never find it.
This video will be available to watch later on our Facebook page, as well as our YouTube channel, which is butterflyexpressions.org. If you haven't subscribed to that, you should. It's awesome. And we will catch you
It's a
again.
big part of my life.
It does. We'll catch you again in a couple weeks.